अपने लिए, अपनों के लिए। Okay, welcome back. We're going to do a straight countdown to the budget speech. It's going to start in just over an hour from now, okay? I'm not going to take you through all the things that are going on, okay, in terms of who's meeting whom and doing what. Those are formalities which are being done. Trust me, the budget speech is ready. Trust me, the union budget is ready. No last-minute surprises are being bunged in as we speak. We have a whole host of people joining us. I'm going to introduce them as we take step by step. But here's the premise, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to think for a minute, because today it's about feeling, okay? There's going to be a lot of devil in the detail, and I promise you the devil in detail is so specific to some, particular industries that nobody's ever going to be perfectly happy, nobody's going to be, perfectly disappointed. There'll be something in it for everyone, hopefully, okay? But what is the feeling? The feeling has to be twofold. Are we getting a positive vibe that the government of this country is in the mental space to unleash this country? Okay? Or are they hesitating? And number two, that in a country that is accepting that you cannot divide the pie into smaller and smaller pieces, you have to increase the size of the pie and then deliver to the vast majority of this country who still struggle to put a nalka and have running water 24/7. Is it going to deliver to them? And if we come away from a positive vibe from this, we've done just fine, because the budgetary exercise is not as important as it was used to be. Okay, so let me go through our guests joining us as you're watching shots on your screens of the finance minister reaching parliament. There's a it's a red folder, not a briefcase this time, okay? I keep wondering the day it will be a made in India touchpad that she'll be using. The day will also come for that. Ankit Jain with us on the broadcast. Ajay Dua joining us, former Commerce Secretary, Government of India. Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt is still with us. He's DG of ISPA. Farhan Petiwala joining us as well. A few others on the broadcast with me. I'm going to introduce them. Navneet Bali ji is also joining us. I'm going to introduce everybody one by one. But I just want to start from a different, very human premise for the countdown of this. And General Bhatt, who spent, of course, he's Lieutenant General, he spent his time in uniform. Currently, he's being tasked to help nurse the private space sector in this country. But General Bhatt, okay, now you will be of a generation, sir, that would remember when we didn't have food. Okay, so my father tells me this, and it's something which is alien to me, okay, that in the national capital, everybody had a ration card, okay? Now we think ration card is, is the ration scheme is alien to us because, you blink it and Swiggy Instamart it, okay? It's all alien to you. But you have to stand in line to get milk. You had no wheat, and the Americans were selling us PL 480, okay? Cheap wheat, and my father tells me the rotis used to come in red color, okay, because the wheat quality was so bad. It was basically wheat that was meant to feed animal stock which was being sold to India. There was a time more recently, which is my generation remembers, when politics of this country revolved around the price of onions. Forget oil shocks. We used to have onion shocks. General Bhatt, around us we are seeing pandemonium and chaos. The Pakistani economy is collapsed, the Sri Lankan economy is collapsed, Bangladesh is doing better but is in a bit of trouble. Chinese economy is in a lot of trouble right now, so even though they've had a boom for 40 years, are we beyond the onion price and can't feed ourselves, General Bhatt? Are we now in a different level? Never again.
Yes, there's much more stability, I would say, in the complete economic domain of India. And that is because of regulations which are changing with time. The example of opening the space sector, which was the ultimate strategic sector only in the domain of the government, and now it has been opened to the private sector, is the indication that maintaining stability, we are looking at new avenues, new future for the nation. And these new domains of tech and technology leading the way for our economy is what is being followed. And space is one of the subjects.
Okay, do you suspect, and I'm going to ask you this question on a different tangent because you spent your life in service as well, sir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a defense budget is going to be announced today. Okay, the vast percentage of our defense budget goes towards, as it needs to, salaries and pensions. Okay, a small portion goes into the capital upgrades that we need to do. General Butt, are we at the cusp, maybe not in the next year, but maybe in the next 5 or 6 years, where the defense complex in India will be a net revenue generator for the exchequer? Can you see that at the end of some tunnels?
You're very right. The schemes which have now been rolled out and the plan that we will now, from a net importer of weapons, we are now exporters. I won't go through the figures, but there's been a significant increase in what we have been able to export this year.
Okay. All right. So we spent 2 hours having a conversation from everything from space to crypto to AI to Nalkas and Ayushman Bharat and this, that. I just want to bring a little bit of focus as we come down to what we're not discussing. Farhan Petiwala is back with us. Farhan ji, had you and I been sitting 10, 15 years ago, there would be on the ticker live tracking of the pyaz ke daam. Okay, forget Sensex and what the international markets are doing. We would be worried about pyaz ke daam. We're not even talking about it. So what does that tell us about where we are now?
So clearly we have evolved. If you see, over the last, we were talking during the break, look at the 90s when we used to face difficulty even getting a phone connection at our home, booking a trunk call, sending a telegram. I remember those days I was posted in Andaman and my family, used to really tell me Kala Pani. And today, when I tell this to my son, he doesn't believe me. He says, no, dad, you're joking. But I think as an economy, we must realize that we are evolving. The telecom sector is involved, the IT sector is involved. I think the way I look at it is clearly the next decade or the next 2 decades, India would be the next export hub for the world.
Okay, so the world is sweating as we speak. Okay?
Yeah.
And I just want a little bit, 2 seconds of a larger picture. The world is sweating as we speak, Ankit, okay? That India is restricting rice exports, okay, which has an impact on global rice prices because I think we are the 2nd largest rice grower in the world, okay. We say we don't have infrastructure, we say 40% of our food rots, okay, we don't have, secondary industries to process the food and, get enhanced value. We have all these problems. How are we feeding ourselves? We are running the world's largest food security scheme. 800 million people are being given free rice every month, 5 kilos a month, okay. Just do the math, do 800 million into 5 kilos every month for the past 2 years and now continuing. How are we just doing something we're getting right for sure? Ankit?
Yes. So I think from the government perspective, they are doing this scheme and basic needs are being taken care of by this. So somebody don't have to worry on the basic food, and 5 kg of rice into 800 million, we are talking about 4 billion kgs of rice being distributed, and then we are doing it all in-house. We are not asking somebody to give it from outside. Rather, we are still the net exporter. So I think we are doing something right because the economy is growing, the GDP is growing, and the GDP itself is enough to take care of these small expenses. So that's the right thing we are doing. But if I look at my 70 years of my experience, I'm do 40, but 70 years we have not done what we could have done.
No, we're not even come close. We're not come close because there are examples to make here, but the sheer scale of India, which means that when we come into our own, okay, which finger crossed will be this generation going forward, okay. When we come into our own, it's this sheer momentum. It's taken us a heck of a long time to just get started, okay. But we've come such a long way. Ladies and gentlemen, when I went to college in the 2000s, okay, I'm not talking about the 80s and 70s, I'm talking about the 2000s when I went to college, and I had a Maruti 800 car, and I was the only lucky person, privileged person in my car who had a Maruti 800 car. Everybody else took the bus, Delhi University. Okay, I go back to the same college today, and you can't find parking. Okay, everybody's got some mode of private transport or the other. I've seen this happen in my generation. Okay, very very fast, and I'm still in my mid 30s. Okay, so there's a speed of change. It's come a long way. Let me introduce Jayan Krishna, also joining us on the broadcast. He's CEO of the Foundation for Advancing Science and Technology. Navneet Bali, let me come to you also first, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, Navneet Bali is co-chair for the ASSOCHAM Healthcare Council. Mr. Bali, let me knock off the first thing. What are you hoping happens 1 hour from now when it comes to your industry, sir?
I think one of the most important challenges that we face as a country is to look at the middle class, and almost 80 crore Indians today do not have any health coverage at all. So as our chairman, Dr. Devi Shetty from Narayana Health, has written an article 2 days back that India needs a universal insurance coverage for India, not the universal health coverage. And if we are going to look at India's health problem as the problem of the middle class, because as you're aware, the poor people are covered by Ayushman Bharat, the rich have the resources to go to any healthcare institution, is the middle class which always suffers. So we are hoping that there is going to be some look at that, where the middle class insurance takes a bigger chunk of what is going to be done.
Okay, so what
In
is
addition
needed,
to
sir?
that,
What is needed? Because
there
that 5 lakh rupee healthcare policy, which is available for a few thousand rupees every year, okay, of which you can get a tax write-off. What is needed? What more can be done?
See, the government and the industry together has to come out. In fact, there has been constituted a committee which is looking into a very, very low premium insurance for a family of a middle class people, which at a very, very low premium, they get a health coverage for the entire family. If you are able to crack that equation, where for a very small premium, we are able to get the insurance, I think that's what is needed. Very importantly, it is important for healthcare institutions to recognize that it is better to keep our population healthy so that they don't come to the hospitals by paying a small premium and then getting a huge amount of health.
Healthcare as a business wants customers as well, sir, and there's an infinite money loop in that. But Mr. Bali, why are we not being able to do it? What is the one factor which is missing? Does the government have to subsidize it? Are we looking at an Obamacare? What are we looking at?
No, see, anything which is not physically prudent does not sustain for a very long time.
Correct.
And that is the biggest issue right now. Subsidizing everything will not work in the long run. We will have to look at models where you keep your larger population healthy. If that is what is important for 140 crore of population, and so you look at an insurance to look at the people who are sick, the healthier are the ones who are actually subsidizing the healthcare for the people who are sick. I think that is the only model which works, because the moment we start looking at subsidies, it puts additional fiscal burdens on the government, which already is a stretched fiscal burdens, and that model never works. So we will have to look at a very, very good optimal insurance policy for the 80 crore people.
Okay, so what do we need? Do we need high-tech R&D? Somebody is going to do the next, innovative heart transplant. Do we need to do medical tourism? What do we need to do to unleash our health sector that has not been done in the past 3 years?
Narayana Health did it long time back on cardiac surgery.
Yeah, hence I mentioned it.
It is called, the whole thing was studied by the Harvard. Yes, and you mentioned it. And I think that similar thing, we'll have to look at it. We'll have to look at scale as our advantage. So you treat a larger number of patients at a lower cost, and that is, I think, a very, very simple model. It will always remain for India. The second important point will be digitalization of our healthcare model across the nation. So we are not looking only at metros and tier 1 cities. We are looking at tier 2, tier 3 villages, where everybody has a healthcare EMR model which can be accessed across the country. I think these two are the biggest focuses right now that I feel will be able to crack the healthcare problem of the country.
Okay. General Bhatt has to go before he leaves. Okay, General Bhatt, in the specific space, we've had the general conversation before you leave. In the specific space, in the space sector, we are still waiting on the draft policy to be formalized. What is the intervention that you're hoping that happens today, or that the industry is hoping happens today?
So the aspirations from space, if I would put, is firstly, space production should be included in the PLI scheme. That this incentive is passed on to our startups, are companies which are working in this domain, in VSATs, modems, and many other things. Then as we look at a financial support which should come from the government by loans and grants, a reduction in the corporate taxes, parity in treatment of capital gains for unlisted companies, and GST exemption for satellite launch. This is already available to public sector companies. We recommend that it should be.
No, hang on. So if you want to launch a satellite, you're paying GST right now?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Except through Antrix, it is not there, but for private sector, they would have to pay.
Okay, so that means when the private sector start doing the launches. So yes. This is a no-brainer. Okay, General Bhatt, thank you. And we're going to pick up this conversation after the budget speech is announced. General Bhatt knows this for sure. Okay, there are certain sectors which are being developed. Okay, I promise you, right now you have no idea what the heck we're talking about. But in 10 years, this will be one of the primary conversations. We'll be discussing, how we are selling missiles to different countries, and that's earning us billions of dollars. How we're building our own planes, and we'll be discussing how the next service coming to you is not coming via Elon Musk's Starlink, is coming by, I don't know, Bharti Airtel working with someone launching 40,000 of their own satellites. You don't hear about it because, I don't know, maybe Bharti Mittal needs to tweet more often that Elon Musk does. I don't know. But General Bhatt, thank you for joining us this morning. Okay. Okay. On that very quick note, let me quickly bring into this conversation another interesting perspective. Jayant Krishna is going to be joining us on the broadcast. He's Chief Executive Audit Officer. He works on skilling issues, and I mentioned Foundation for Advanced Science and Technology. Mr. Krishna, what do you hope for? What happens here that unleashes Team India, that gets the government out of the way, and they say, you guys go innovate, you guys go figure it out, and meanwhile we'll feed our people?
See, fundamentally, I believe the finance minister, has to deliver a budget, which throws the signal that, good economics in our country would make good politics. I think that's very, very important. This is the last budget, full budget of Modi government before the elections happen next year. And therefore, this is the last opportunity to, bring in some of those big ticket reforms. That's very, very important. See, we are at a cusp, at some kind of a threshold, where the entire world is looking at India as an investment destination. Some of the investments are, fleeing away from China, and India stands at a very, very good place to, garner them. But for that, it's very important that, we should do the right posturing, right signaling, even if it comes to rolling out a red carpet, that's very important, improving the ease of doing business. These things are very important.
Okay, but when we say ease of doing business, okay, all evidence, sir, is going to be anecdotal. Okay, either your life became easier, okay, or it didn't.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Because the government can come and tell me I've removed 30,000 odd. I was having a very interesting conversation a couple of days ago. And there's an economist, okay, sitting with us, Jayjeet, and he was saying that he wanted to start this BNB in Delhi, okay, in his apartment. So if he being who he was, a person who works in think tank, actually read all the regulations. And one of the regulations stated that you need to have a place and provisioning to tether a horse. Okay, because the regulation was written 120 years ago by the British and nobody changed it. So technically, if you did not provide a parking spot for a horse outside, you could be penalized and your license could be cancelled. Now, some of it is obvious that needs to go, which is laughable, okay? But in some cases, it's less obvious and a lot of people don't want to give up control. Has your life become easier, sir, in operation? Have you seen change come?
See, a lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues in the industry say that wherever there is an e-governance enabled technology-led approval process, their life has become better. Ease of doing business has improved in the country. But wherever there is a human-to-human interaction in the government, there the life has not changed much. It has maybe marginally improved, but not to the extent it was required. So wherever the processes change and there was a digital delivery of a service or an approval process, as I said, things have improved.
Okay. So I have never had to meet an income tax clerk in my working life, okay, because my tax return gets filed online, okay. So definitely my life is easier, and definitely because it's easier, I'm more inclined to file my tax return on time. Where are we stuck?
So I think I think stuck, if you look at fundamentally, I believe, I think we are a good, service sector economy. We all know that. We have done a pretty good job of, it's a robust sector. We've understood the rules of the game. We understand the international landscape, be it IT enabled services, be it financial services, any service sector that you look at.
Okay.
But we need to perfect our game in the manufacturing sector. That's very important. As a matter of fact, our manufacturing share of GDP has gone down. It used to be 16% in 2015. Now it is about 14%. So I think that has to go up.
Okay, I'm less worried about the share of it, as long as in real numbers it is growing, and hopefully growing rapidly. I've started seeing goods which you can buy now that actually say made in India. I don't know whether people are just starting to put it on their taglines, but all of this matters. Okay, gentlemen, I'm sorry, I'm going to be cliched for the next half an hour. Okay, forgive me that I have to be a TV journalist and going to be cliched. So I'm going to jump into this now. Farhan Petiwala, from $3.2 trillion to $5 trillion, how do we get there?
So clearly, I think the emphasis has to be on sectors that have been to a large extent neglected, like how Jayant said, manufacturing or exports, or you talked about, you have not seen a tax guy in your career so far, but look at it from companies who are manufacturing in India. The company I represent, Heikel, we are into agrochemical and pharma and crop protection. Now, we've got 6 factories across India. We've got R&D facility in Pune. Our biggest challenge today is not manufacturing or exporting.
It must be the way bill.
Yeah. The issues are, dealing, as Jayant said, where you come in contact with government. When we talk about ease of doing business, including ease of living, there are still a lot of challenges here. Look at agricultural productivity, look at private sector participation, look at logistical hassles that we have, warehousing.
Okay. So now give me a practical solution. Okay, I'll give you a very, very real world example.
Right.
Okay, for people watching the broadcast. You're driving your car, okay, and you get stopped by the traffic cop.
Yeah.
The traffic cop may or may not stop you for an infraction.
True.
But once he stopped you, he's trying to find an infraction.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now show me pollution certificate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now show me fitness certificate.
Yeah.
No RC. No,
Yeah.
this is a photocopy of RC.
Yeah.
You should have been. If you want to keep a photocopy, a gazetted officer has to sign the photocopy. Then you argue, no, digital photocopy.
True.
No, we haven't that regulation, this regulation, that regulation, this regulation. They're trying to find the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you go WTF.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the issue here. So
Yeah.
the mindset is, and the reason they're trying to find a problem is, ladies and gentlemen, because their economy, their job works on meeting quotas for fines that they can take out in a month. Okay?
Yeah.
So the guy, I'm not talking about him taking 100 rupees on the side.
Yeah.
I'm talking about him officially having to register number of fines, and then his bosses will come and say, yes, we have fixed the problem of seatbelt driving because we have fined 50,000 people.
True.
Okay, and we have earned so much of revenue for ourselves. Okay, so the mindset is go find a problem.
Yeah.
How do we change that mindset? How do we disincentivize that mindset?
I think that's where, we have to bring in some behavioral change in the way we do things. And I think that starts from the government. And why do I say that? Because they're like the big daddies for us. When I say industry, we look at them. Look at the important thing for government. Today, direct taxes are constituting almost half of the gross tax revenue for them. And clearly, there are, targets given to grow the tax revenues. I mean, on one side, our fiscal deficit is on a consolidation path. It's great. We're happy. But on the other side, is the industry really happy doing business in India? Are they really?
No, they're doing it because you don't have an option. Like I said, it is highly tempting.
Yeah.
Okay, for somebody to say, I just can't deal with it anymore. Okay, I am going to take the next flight to Shanghai.
Yeah.
Just go shopping.
Yeah.
Okay, and just import stuff from there because making it here is now uneconomical and it's too much of a headache. And a lot of people have done that, which is why you have a whatever it is, $70-80 billion deficit to them. Okay,
Right.
but in a simple, pragmatic sense, Ankit, when we're talking about just letting people get on, when the entire system is designed, we think the license Raj has ended. It hasn't.
No, it
Okay? So the entire system is designed for control and on the assumption that everybody is a criminal. I'll give you a very straight example. So I had to go to the Delhi High Court, okay, a few weeks ago. I just had to verify that there is a 5 lakh rupee fixed deposit that I have taken out, okay, just a verification I had to go and do and leave. I'm figuring 20-minute process, I go back to work.
Correct.
I spent the entire day there. The entire day. Because the system thinks I'm a criminal. So obviously I've forged my signature. Obviously this 5 lakh deposit doesn't exist. Doesn't make a difference if I've got a stamped copy from the bank and the electronic record is showing fine. The system thinks I'm a criminal. So I have to be physically present. My banker has to be present. Okay, and I need to spend an entire day. I had to take a day off from my job. An entire day, and this was an efficient registrar who was going through cases really fast. Okay, but the system tells you you are a criminal if you send something. Obviously, it's a lie. Okay, so your mummy, your papa, your dadi, dadu, everybody have to come to verify. Okay, and sign halafnamas. Otherwise, we don't believe you. So when the system is designed thinking you're a criminal, okay, how do we change the mindset?
So the only way to change this mindset is not behavior. It's only the technology used, and that has to keep increasing and reducing the human touch. That will bring the real transparency. You just give me an example. A police wala is on the way and he caught you with a car. The entire system knows kisne pollution, who has got the pollution done, who has not got the pollution done. Why do we need to check a pollution?
I mean, your car number is registered every time you get a PUC done.
PUC
okay?
done, it is done, and if somebody is not getting, send him a challan.
And you have electronic abilities to just track car numbers to know they've not got a pollution, send them automatically, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
but it's the harassment that happens, slows you down, which irritates you, frustrates you, and you know gets
that's
you.
the only
it's
way.
The irritation when the inspector comes, he is not looking to check everything's okay because that's his job.
Yeah.
He's coming to find a problem. Okay, if you come to my house, ladies and gentlemen, and I live in privileged housing, okay, in South Delhi, अब वहाँ पर एक नलका नहीं चल रहा होगा, एक सीलन आपको मिलेगी कहीं पर, I'm sorry, ठीक है, सुबह शाम कितनी रिपेयर करा लूँ, part of life, okay, but when somebody is coming to find a problem, they can find a problem.
Definitely, because the donkey years old laws, you always miss one or the other thing. So the only way is using technology more and more. Look at the passport. Getting a passport 20 years ago was a hassle. Now it's completely seamless. Because everything is online, there's no question being.
It's better. It's not seamless. Okay, it's
okay.
Better.
We use it.
It's
we
better.
Use it as
I had a brilliant experience at the passport office. I decided for the first time I'm going to show up the passport office without having to call up papas, uncles, chacha, taya. Okay, who's in the IFS. Okay, no, just show up. 30 minutes in and out, done. Passport in my hand in 3 days. Amazing experience. Repeated in a different passport center. 5 days later, I had to eventually call up someone. Okay, it just depends on the people, and in this case, identifying good managers, people who want to do their job versus people who just want to take their lunch breaks. Okay, and again, find reasons to reject your form. Okay, the same form then gets accepted when they figure out who I am. That means there was no problem with the form. There was just somebody there going, no, you go to that desk, you go to that. It was so frustratingly petty. And that's what it tells me, you know, my father's chartered accountant, okay? One advice he told me, don't become a CA. You'll spend the rest of your life going from one desk to the other desk. Doesn't make a difference how successful you are.
That is what I do.
Okay, don't become a CA because you'll be sitting in an income tax office going one babu to the other babu to the other babu to the other babu. I became a journalist, I run around people with mics, I don't know if it's any better.
No, but this is how it is, that the system has these big challenges because there is no performance or incentivizing or penalizing any officials per se, what they do. So I am a chartered accountant, I deal with the system. So if an income tax officer give a wrong order which get relieved at the next level or at the high court, does he get penalized, or a training happens to him that he should be sent for a training again that he did something wrong and harass this
but again,
taxpayer?
if his entire system is designed to think you're a criminal, okay, which is changing, okay, now tax returns are being accepted on face value, okay, for a lot of people, and that's how it should be. And then that motivates me to be honest, because every tiny thing is not bloody harassment. Okay, why this rupee, why that money, why? If you want to find problems, you will find problems. If you walk around my studio right now and want to find problems, you will find problems. Okay, that applies to everyone. Okay, let's open this up. Avneet Singh Marwa joining us in the broadcast. Rajiv Talwar, former president of the PhD CCI, is joining us. He's a specialist in and advisor in the real estate sector. Mr. Talwar, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast. We are having both the good, bad, ugly conversation. And I've begun the premise for this telecast, sir, that saying that many things we're not discussing. If I had sat with you 10 years ago, I would be discussing onion prices with you right now, sir. It's no longer a subject, which is a sign of progress in itself. What should be the subject today, Mr. Talwar?
The subject today in real estate should be that these are urban centers, are the centers of growth. If they are centers of growth, we need to provide a large amount of housing, especially for the poor. Poor need something like 8 crore homes in the next 20 years. Now you can imagine the GDP growth.
Okay, so what do you make of the PM Awas Yojana, sir? Okay, which
facilitate.
So I mean, we are developing houses, I'm told, in terms of lakhs. I've been to some of the houses myself, and they're half decent. They've been well planned, well constructed. Some change is going on. You know, there's a big corporation that is undertaking the redevelopment of Dharavi now. But what you are alluding to is low income housing, is affordable housing, done at high scale. Why is this stuck when there is an obvious demand?
Yes. I think the Prime Minister Awas Yojana is an excellent program. They are almost providing 2 crore homes. And that will be a big multiplier. Now what we need to do is to undertake that program with all seriousness all over the country. And to give fillip to private sector participation, number one, we need to raise deduction on loans, home loans, from 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs, so that people invest more. Number two, the pricing of affordable homes up to 60 square meters, which is allowed on a concessional rate, should be increased up to 1 crore.
Okay. I'm making a note,
Because
sir.
in super metros, land is so expensive that they cannot get a home.
Okay, which again begs the question. Now you'd think that is a sign of a booming sector if land is expensive. So why is land still expensive? Why does it cost me so much to pick up a house, okay, when at the same time there's a glut on the market and certain developers can't sell any houses?
They can't sell any houses. The inventory truthfully is going down. You can see the example of Maharashtra, where the registrations have been the highest as soon as they gave a concession on the stamp duty, and the rest of the stamp duty was paid by the builders. So therefore the home buyer ended up paying no stamp duty during the period of concession.
Okay, so all of this adds up, and yeah,
The
real
amount
estate,
of revenue which flowed was the highest.
yeah, you know, there's old adage that goes, the only thing they don't make anymore is land. Don't tell that to the Emiratis who are building islands, but for the rest of us, yes. So this is going to matter. Okay, I just want to, you know, put a few things into perspective here. An exercise you're going to see over the next 1.5 hours is not the be-all and end-all exercise. Okay, it no longer is. I wish there were not sacks of budget documents coming in. I'm sure we can digitize this for sure, okay? But some traditions we like to keep going. I still like a few printouts once in a while, okay? I don't know how green this is, hopefully in the future. But since this is not a be-all and end-all exercise, the only thing that it is giving us today is an opportunity to focus on what otherwise would be very dry and pedantic matters. It's giving us a vibe, an energy of are we heading in the right direction? And it is giving a statement of intent from government, is that their mentality in the right direction. And I'll tell you what I mean by mentality.
Correct.
I was expecting, and I'm a, you know, forward-looking Indian, I would like to think. And a person like me thought that once they bought drones in, the reaction of government is going to be shut it down. Okay, because army will complain, ISRO will complain, everybody will complain. No, in top of our canned security installations, New Delhi, no chance, no chance. Everybody will be terror attack. There will be bombing everywhere. No drones. The government policy was shockingly liberal. Everything is a green zone unless specified otherwise. I was expecting everything red zone, and we'll give you one part to play with your drones. So it is a mindset change, which is very, very reflective here. And let me get Mr. Marwa into this logic. Mr. Marwa, has it become easier for you to operate a business?
If I talk about in last 8 years, the answer would be yes. I feel that there are a couple of big reforms that have taken place. I was listening to you that how things still in this digitalization world, how things have not changed on ground levels. But in terms of ease of doing business, I still feel it has improved. There is a lot of scope that is still left.
No, has it changed? Because the government tells us, look, there were some 75,000 regulations and compliances. We've eliminated 20-30,000 of them. Okay. Our ease of doing business rating is going up. We are digitizing. We are doing well. Has it changed it? Has your life changed? That yes, a few things have become easier, if not many.
Yeah, if I talk about taxation, for example, GST, most of us, whenever we used to take surveys, that people are not happy with GST. If you ask me, as a brand owner which has so many branches across India, we have just one tax system. Before GST, I used to have sale tax, VAT, etc., etc. It was a very complex tax system. Yes, it has. If you talk about bureaucracy, still it exists in the country. Yes, there is everyday challenges that we are facing. If you talk about ground level realities, I'll give you an example. Day before yesterday, there was imports. We are one of the highest manufacturer of televisions in India, and still some babu took a paper and started questioning. So it was quite surprising, as a taxpayer company, one of the highest taxpayer, and still without any reason started having question, and why. So yes, still all this exists. We need to have strict policies against some of the officials, because I feel, and you'll be really surprised to know, there was a policy in imports where if a query comes, it will not come from that particular region. If we are importing in Delhi, that query might go to Calcutta, and from there the officer will ask you questions.
Yeah, okay. So it's designed that way, and I'm no exporter importer. I was studying in England and wanted to ship my luggage, which was my old sweatshirts, back to India via air courier. I had to spend the entire day at the customs office and just to get my sweatshirts and my books cleared from them, because the customs officer was in a bad mood. What you going to do about it? Okay. So thank God I don't have to do it every day, but I'm told things have become better now. In a very real sense of how are we quantifying better, I can only sort of suggest to you that the quantification can only happen if we are seeing real change. Navneet Bali, are you seeing real change? Are you seeing your life become a little bit easier for you to get about your day, run your business, do your job?
Yes, absolutely yes to that, without doubt. Especially if you ask me as a common citizen, you rightly pointed out the passport mechanism now, and there are many such things that I see are changing. As far as the healthcare sector is concerned, because I represent that sector, I think there is a lot of hope right now, because we have started looking in the right direction, and my answer to that would be 100% yes.
Okay. I told you that we're going to do some larger picture philosophy, but we are also going to do some anecdotal evidence, but we're also going to do some cliches. And with 50 minutes to go, I'm sorry if I'm going to resort back to the cliches. So I'm going to come back to Ankit. Ankit, expectations. What do you suspect is going to happen in the next couple of hours?
So next couple of hours, when our finance minister will see. I see a joy coming in definitely from an industry perspective, because I strongly believe there's going to be reforms coming in across the sectors, which will give us a push both from an infra side as well as from manufacturing side. Social security.
Give us a good example. I don't know what social security is. Give us a good example. What do you think is going to happen? For sure.
So for sure, there is going to be PLI schemes which will go up, which will push the manufacturing base of it. For sure, it is going to happen. Healthcare sector, we have already fixed up the Ayushman. That scheme might be enhanced. From a common man, middle class perspective, the change in these tax slabs. For housing perspective, there might be additional deductions on the housing loan. From a real estate perspective, I say the list of low income housing group, that should go up. So from across the industry, these things should happen.
Okay, same thing to you, sir.
No, I think Rishabh, the way I look at it is government has to focus on many aspects. Some of them have to be futuristic, like climate change. You know, you must have heard about the 4,000 crore green bonds that the government talked about. I think the Reserve Bank had released 2 tranches of that bonds. I'm keen to see how those green hydrogen ecosystem is getting formed, because the way I look at it is this budget is not just for 1 year, it's also setting the footprint for the next decade.
Yeah, but what should the themology be? Because everybody else is talking about, I promise you, if you're watching other news, if you're flipping channels at home, okay, you'll see everybody else talking about 2024 elections, okay? Now, the reason I'm not spent the past 3 years talking about 2024 elections, because I'm a firm believer that that's not everything that matters today, okay? It might matter for a lot of people, but I firmly believe that there is a momentum beyond that now transcends our electoral cycle, just like the budget no longer is a one-day exercise, it goes on for the entire year. So it transcends that. Few things that you are expecting or should happen, sir. Finish your thought, Mr.
So, you know, Rishabh, I was going to say our Prime Minister has always been a visionary, launching programs like Make in India. I think I'd be keen to see some of these programs get more traction in the budget in terms of, you know, because clearly India has to be the
but Make in India, other than PLI, what you going to do? Other than PLI, I think we have consensus is government get out of the way. Build the infrastructure, build the road, build the railway yards, okay?
Yeah.
Build the industrial corridors, make my life easier, cut my taxes and get out of the way. I'll do the innovation and Make in India for you.
I would go one step further. You know, those smart cities that we had envisioned, I think it's time now for us to see that in action. A lot of these cities have already been, you know, come up. You talk about those aspirational districts that were not doing well. I know the Niti Aayog identified them. I'm looking at creating excellence in some of these districts. Like one district, I think in the previous panel session we talked about making those districts, you know, hubs of maybe, you know, semiconductors or
I was coming out of a series of interviewing all these union ministers, and somebody making a very interesting example that identifying both products and potential industrialization, so manufacturing. Okay, everything. Some of it has been decided on the basis of a product that's endemic to the region. It might be mangoes. Okay, but make areas in specialists in particular, because then the supply chains, the economies of scale and competitiveness and the world renown. There's something called geotagging for those places become very important. Okay. Let me get Jayant Krishna back into this. Jayant Krishna, the cliched answer, what are you expecting to happen in this speech, sir?
I would expect in more tangible terms, you know, allocations to 3 areas to go up. You know, one being, you know, education itself, you know, where we spend just about 3% of GDP, both government and central government put together, to go up. It can't go up to 6%, the desired level immediately, but some signaling in terms of it going up to 3.5%. Healthcare, where the government spends about 1.3%, but overall private sector, state government, government of India put together, we spend about 3.2%. We would expect that to become at least 3.6 to 7%. Science and technology research, where we spend just about 0.64% of our GDP, we would expect some signaling to happen to become about 0.8%, if not 1% of GDP. These signals are very, very important, because unless we put in this kind of a money in sectors of national importance, our human development index would not go up. Capacity to become an innovation-led economy would not happen.
Okay, Mr. Talwar, you've discussed what you're hoping for. What are you expecting?
We're expecting that, yes, there will be some kind of concession on 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs for home loan repayment. The limit for affordable housing will go up from 65 lakhs to in metros to 1 crore in super metros. And then there will be a 50% standard deduction allowed for rental housing. And most of all, the government will keep on going in a very large program to make 8 crore homes to be given to the poor on a rental basis, neither buying nor giving them away free, but on a rental basis, so that they have ease of mobility and ease of doing business, and it's an affordable rent in which they can earn a very good life in a secure home, a pakka home, where electricity, water, digital connections are all given.
Okay, Abneet Marma, what are you expecting? What is going to happen?
I think in terms of electronics, first and most important, semiconductors. I think we are seeing that in PLI semiconductors were included. There will be more components that will be added.
So let me build on that since it's a pet thing for me. 70,000 crores of the PLI. Okay, that's $10 billion. A lot of people say not enough.
I think it's a beginning. You start with something. I can't understand. This is the first time there is a project that's going live in February itself, and Mr. Prime Minister is inaugurating that factory. So, it's a starting, it's a very big starting for us. And in terms of how from assembly to India to make in India, nobody is talking about how government is focusing on having more component raw material factories in India.
Okay.
And this is the best chance, just 10 seconds more, best chance for India. If China is at lowest in 40 years, +1 is the best chance for India to grow. As a manufacturing sector, we are only 16%.
Okay, when he says +1 is what we discussed in the morning is China +1. Everybody's still manufacturing in China, ladies and gentlemen, but they're looking for a second base. The second base could be India right now, and then in a few years it could be the first base, if not the only base. Okay, now I will do the second cliched thing. Okay, it's not the onion prices, but it is direct taxes. Okay. It matters because the budget speech is when the direct taxes are actually, all these other policies, the incremental changes come all year around. Okay, ask any industrialist to tell you this. The budget speech is no longer as important as it used to be. But when it comes to direct taxes, it still is. Okay, Ankit?
Yep.
Didn't do it last year.
They have not done it from a long time, and
Yeah.
the increment has been very, very small. And if you look at the purchase pricing parity, the inflation has gone up drastically. So we need to do drastic change into that. Rather, I should say the government should clearly link all these slabs with the inflation factor. Every year the inflation changes.
They're never going to do that, right? So now the problem is why do people who earn salaries are the people who get the most punished? Because all these housing schemes and this scheme and that scheme, the bottom line is people who earn a salary, okay, you get taxed at the very beginning, okay, and then on everything else you pay that taxes, and inflation is your biggest tax, because very rarely will your salary growth match up with the real rate of inflation. So the most punished set of people are those who are. It is better to start your own company. Maybe you should. Okay, I should incorporate myself, and then I can write off my house and my car and everything else as business expenses. That
is what people do in the West.
So why is our tax base is improved, Ankit? Why is it not improving faster?
Why it is not improving faster? Because we don't tax 65% of the economy. The agriculture is not being taxed. There's so much unorganized sector which is there. Even they are earning much more than your basic tax limit, and they are not being taxed. So the base has not been increasing, though the government is trying hard. So the tax compliance has gone up. We have already touched some 8-9 crores of tax returns being filed, but actual people who are paying taxes still 2-3 crore. That's it.
Okay.
So that base
there's no running away. It's no longer the domain of the rich. Mr. Petiwala, how many people are just shifting to Dubai now? Okay. Primarily because of these kind of reasons. What are we doing? I mean, are we really saying that 2.5 lakh rupees is is a bracket anymore. 2.5 lakh rupees. I mean, what? Let's be ridiculously honest. If you're living in a metropolitan area and you earn 2.5 lakh rupees a year, okay, you're living in poverty.
Yeah, that's true.
So what are we saying as a tax slab of 2.5 lakhs? It's a joke.
So I think clearly the government has to balance both the tax, the inflation, and the deficit, and that's the humongous job our finance minister has been doing for the last several decades. I think what's important is we talked about this whole mindset change. You know, India must, on one side, our Prime Minister says we have to make ease of doing business, we want to get more people in to come and make things here. On the other side, we have this huge devil called as the tax. And tax is not something that you can deal with. You have issues that, 5 years ago you paid X amount of tax, you went under a wrong code, now you correct that and pay another double the tax. And then, so entrepreneurs who are doing businesses, whether they are manufacturing, whether they are into any kind of services, I think their biggest concern is, I've paid the tax, but I don't know whether that's the right tax.
Yeah, and so at the business level, it's one heck of a headache, but I can promise you, it's painful. Avneet Marwa, you will have employees who will be salaried, okay? Any help in the tax bracket that helps them makes your life as an entrepreneur easier, okay? Because you have a CTC, your CTC remains the same, okay? But the person gets better in hand and their life becomes easier. So as an entrepreneur, it makes your life easier. So there is benefit across the board. Why is this such a punishing regime that the taxation structure is assuming? Avneet, if you're living in Delhi and you earn 2.5 lakh rupees a year, okay, which is, drivers earn that now. In a metropolitan area, you are at subsistence living. If you're paying rent, schooling, water, electricity, mobile phone services, it's subsistence money now. How is this a tax slab?
I think government should seriously reconsider the tax slab. It's been long, I think it's been 3 or 4 years now. They haven't done that. And after lockdown, especially when the pent-up demand has gone now, all your first travel, your first dinner, everything is over. How to create demand? And if you will not give disposable income to middle class, which is the backbone of the country, how will you survive? So government needs to do something. You are absolutely right. The 2.5 lakhs is a joke now. And for us, it's become very difficult because the kind of raise that we have to do. And plus, if you ask, this is a common general discussion across, we pay the most tax and we don't get out of it. So government needs to change this narrative and the tax slab has to, and above 10 lakhs also, which is again really high. Government did, for corporate tax, it is one of the conducive 15% corporate tax that they have done. But I would say it needs to increase the slab.
Yeah, okay, it's a base rate. It's been a dream. Ajay Dua joining us on the broadcast. Ajay Dua, before I look at other things, before the speech starts, on this specific issue, which does matter, sir, why aren't we being able to crack it? All the logic tells you that lower taxes, direct taxes, more people coming into the tax net has to be the future, because our rate of taxation is high and the tax pool is not small, it is abysmally small. Ladies and gentlemen, it is less than 2% of the citizenry of this country pay income taxes. Less than 2%. What does that tell us, Ajay Dua?
Rishabh, I'm absolutely one with you that since 2014, there has been no revision in the exemption limits or the tax slabs in the country. The people at the margin, including the lower middle class, are suffering the most because of it. That has to be revised, because it's not going to affect the revenue collections much of the government. The revenues pool actually comes from the top 1/3 of the taxpayers, not the top 2/3, who are required to file returns, who are required to pay pay these taxes, etc. But it doesn't add up to much. So I do expect that the government now, in an election year, they are all voters and they all go to vote much more than the richer guy. While we need not touch the upper income slabs because of revenue reasons, no other. Economics warrants it, but we will be doing well, the government will be doing well to build up
But
the
Ajay Dua, you know how this works, and you know how the British run their Cayman Islands. No, so the problem is then that all those others you're talking about who contribute to the revenue sector, they are now all shifting to Dubai. They're shifting to Singapore.
No,
So what do you
I'm
do then?
saying relatively, Rishabh, the people at the two-thirds of the people don't really contribute more than 15% of the
Okay.
total collect.
So there are good ways of doing about it, and I'm going to touch upon this since the matter has been raised. Okay.
Yeah.
You tell people who can afford it in this country that, listen guys, why am I giving you LPG subsidy? You can afford the 300-400 rupees extra a month, okay? And 2.5 crore people voluntarily give it up. Because yeah, they could, I mean, there was no reason that the government of India was subsidizing LPG for my family. It made no sense, okay? So the government reducing subsidies on one side and therefore reducing expenditure, and we've done that. We've reduced them in kerosene, we've reduced them in diesel, petrol, liberalized. We've gone in all the right directions. So check. There's one big chunky problem which is lying, which is our direct tax regime, both to simplify it and to increase the tax base. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the tax base has been increasing every year. Okay, it has gone up by 60-70% in the past 2-3 years. But the problem is the base is so small that if you think that 10-15% of the country, at least 10-15% of the citizenry should be paying direct taxes, well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. India will become a $5 trillion economy before 15% of the people start paying taxes. There's something broken in the system here which I'm trying to figure out. Ankit, why is this so broken?
So there are two reasons I believe, which is one, people are somewhere afraid of paying taxes in India, and they feel this is not right. A small shopkeeper, even if he's earning 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs rupees, he's not paying. He's doing everything on a cash basis because they feel there is no incentive to pay taxes. If I am a taxpayer, do I get 10 cents? Municipality, a taxpayer will get a separate line. If you can just start those kind of things, you'll get honor to pay taxes. That's the one way of looking at it. When you're giving a separate line, or if in an Ayushman Bharat, if I am a taxpayer, I have a special health card. So you honoring those people who are giving back to the society, who are giving back to the country. So that's one big thing has to change, and that will help to actually enlighten the larger.
Okay, so there's been some effort. There's been some effort to make it. I think they give you a certificate now.
Yeah. But that certificate won't help.
Okay.
You still have to go to the court and, as you said, and stand for the entire day. Why?
Which is worth something. But in the end, Mr. Petiwala, in incentivizing people to want to pay taxes, I want to pay tax. Okay, a lot of people will want to pay certain things. The Parliament session has begun, ladies and gentlemen. We got a couple of minutes. Mr. Petiwala, last quick thoughts.
So I think clearly the expectation is the government always puts money in social infra and employment. There's an enhanced capital expenditure in budget.
Okay, that's the finance minister rising to present a speech. Let's listen it.
Sure.
Honorable Speaker, I present the budget for 2023-2024.
incentive